I unlocked my apartment door at 11:52 p.m., evidence folder tucked under my arm, my mind already rehearsing tomorrow's sentencing arguments. 14 months of perfect work, culminating in one final hearing. Marco Santoro would receive 25 years. No parole. The lights were on. I always turned them off. Always. My briefcase slipped from my grip, hitting the hardwood with a dull thud that echoed through the hallway. Every instinct screamed to run, call building security, retreat to the hallway's false safety. Instead, I stepped inside and saw him. Marco Santoro sat in my living room armchair. The defendant I'd spent 14 months prosecuting. The man whose sentencing hearing began in 7 hours. The criminal who should have been in a holding cell. Not my controlled space. Not my sanctuary. Not sitting in my never-used chair like he owned it. "Good evening, Prosecutor Sinclair." His voice was smooth, deep, an accent that whispered of old money and older power. The evidence folder, my final review notes, witness list, sentencing recommendations, all meticulously color-coded, lay scattered across the floor where I'd dropped it. Papers out of order, tabs misaligned. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't stop cataloging the chaos at my feet while a criminal sat in my home. He looked different without the courtroom's fluorescent lights, the charcoal suit jacket draped over the chair arm. White shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms that suggested he didn't spend all his time behind desks. Dark hair perfectly styled despite the late hour, sharp jawline shadowed with evening stubble. And those eyes, cold blue, calculating, fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin burn. "How did you?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You're supposed to be in custody. Technically, I'm released on my own recognizance pending sentencing." A slight smile. "Your office agreed. Something about overcrowded holding facilities." He'd been free for hours while I'd been at my desk, adding final annotations to my trial notes, perfecting arguments that were already perfect, making sure every detail aligned, while he'd been here, waiting. "That doesn't explain how you got into my apartment." "Your doorman was remarkably helpful once I explained. We had a meeting." He gestured to the chair opposite him. "The one I never used, because it disrupted the room's balance. Please, sit. We have much to discuss before tomorrow's sentencing." I should call the police. Should scream. Should do anything except what I did. I stepped fully inside, closed the door, locked it, left the scattered papers on the floor. Evidence of disorder. I'd normally correct immediately, because whatever Marco Santoro wanted I needed to know before tomorrow's hearing. "You have 5 minutes, I said, remaining standing. Maintaining the power position, then I'm calling the police. Trespassing. Intimidating a federal prosecutor. Violating release conditions. I haven't intimidated anyone." His eyes traveled slowly from my heels to my face. Not leering. Assessing. Yet, that single word sent electricity down my spine. Wrong kind of electricity. Dangerous kind. I moved to the chair. Sat with perfect posture. Spine straight, shoulders back, the way I'd trained myself in law school. Hands folded in lap. Eye contact unwavering. Control. Even with my evidence notes, still scattered on the floor. Even with a criminal in my living room. Even with my pulse racing. Control. 4 minutes, I said. Marco leaned forward. Elbows on knees. Close enough now that I could smell his cologne. Cedar and leather, and something darker that made my pulse quicken. "Tomorrow your case collapses," he said simply. "Tomorrow, you get 25 years. I kept my voice level. Professional. I spent the last 3 hours reviewing my sentencing recommendations. Every precedent. Every mitigating factor your lawyers might raise. Every possible appeal angle. I leaned forward slightly, matched his intensity. "There are no cracks in my case, Mr. Santoro." "No?" That smile again. Patient. Almost admiring. "Then explain." Sarah Mitchell. The name hit me like cold water. My junior associate. The one who'd helped compile evidence logs. Who'd stayed late with me countless nights, organizing files, cross-referencing timestamps. Who I'd mentored personally. What about her? "Tomorrow morning you'll discover she accessed the evidence room without authorization. 4 minutes. 2 months ago. Right before you submitted your surveillance footage to the court." He pulled out his phone. Showed me a document. Time-stamped security logs. Sarah's ID badge. Access to evidence room 2:47 a.m. on a date I recognized immediately. The night before our evidence submission deadline. The night I'd sent everyone home at midnight because I wanted to do the final review myself. The night Sarah had texted saying she'd forgotten her laptop and was going back to the office. How did you? The question isn't how I got this information. He pocketed the phone. The question is why I'm showing it to you now, 12 hours before it becomes public knowledge. Before your boss calls you into his office. Before the defense files their motion to dismiss. My hands clenched in my lap. The only outward sign of the earthquake happening inside me. Chain of custody. I whispered. Broken. He nodded. 4 minutes of unauthorized access. No supervision. No witnesses. Your entire surveillance case, the foundation of your prosecution, becomes inadmissible. All those hours you spent perfecting your arguments. He glanced at the scattered papers on my floor. Worthless. I wanted to tell him he was lying. That this was a desperate bluff from a man facing 25 years. But the security logs looked real, and Sarah had been acting strange lately. Avoiding my calls, taking personal days. Why tell me, I asked quietly. Professional courtesy. He stood, moved to my bookshelf, studied the spines with genuine interest. Law journals, philosophy texts, my worn copy of The Art of War with dozens of colored tabs marking key passages. He pulled out that last one, flipped to a page I'd annotated heavily. You've spent 14 months learning everything about me. My organization, my methods, my weaknesses. He traced my handwritten notes in the margin. Know your enemy. Sun Tzu. You've certainly tried. He set down the book. Precisely where it had been. Respecting my order even as he violated my space. I thought it only fair I return the favor. This is a threat. No. He moved closer. Too close. I could see gold flecks in those cold blue eyes now. A threat would be telling you that Sarah Mitchell is already on a plane to Buenos Aires, that your boss knows about the contamination, but won't tell you until after tomorrow's hearing. He wants to see you fail first, that 3 other prosecutors in your office are compromised. He paused. That all your perfectionism, all your careful preparation, all those extra hours reviewing notes that were already flawless, none of it matters when the system itself is rotten. Each word hit like a physical blow. My carefully constructed world. The one where hard work and perfect preparation guaranteed victory. Crumbling. You're lying. Am I? He studied my face. Tell me, Victoria, when was the last time you lost a case? He used my first name, like we were equals. Like this was something other than prosecutor and defendant. Never, I said. Because it was true. Exactly. The prosecutor who never loses. Who builds perfect cases. Who stayed at her desk until midnight tonight, making sure every comma was in the right place. That patient smile. Who believes the system works because she's never seen it fail. He knew I'd been at the office. Knew my schedule. Had probably been watching me for weeks while I obsessed over details. Tomorrow, you learn the system is broken, he continued. Has been for years. And all your perfection can't fix it. I stood, faced him. We were inches apart now, close enough to see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, close enough to notice his pupils dilate slightly as I met his gaze. Get out of my apartment. I'm leaving. But he didn't move. Just studied my face, like I was a puzzle he was solving. But first, a question. When you discover tomorrow that I was right, that your case is destroyed, that your colleague betrayed you, that 14 months of perfect work means nothing, what will you do? I'll build another case, better, stronger. I'll review every piece of evidence personally. Will you? Something flickered in his eyes, almost like respect. Or will you finally ask yourself the question you've been avoiding your entire career? What question? He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. What if perfection is the weakness? What if following every rule is exactly what makes you vulnerable? What if the only way to beat someone like me, his voice dropped to a whisper, is to break the rules you've spent your life protecting? Then he stepped back, grabbed his jacket, walked to the door. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I'll send a car. We'll have dinner. Somewhere public. Somewhere safe. He paused at the threshold. and I'll explain exactly how deep the corruption goes. How many people in your office work for me? How many cases were won not because you're brilliant, though you are, but because I allowed it? I won't come. He opened the door. Those blue eyes held mine. Yes, you will. Because you can't help yourself. Because you need to know. Because the idea of corruption in your perfect system is worse than any danger I represent. He glanced at the scattered papers still on my floor. Because you've already left your evidence notes disordered for 5 full minutes. That's a record for you, isn't it? He was right. My fingers itched to straighten them, to restore order, to fix what was broken. But I didn't move until tomorrow. Victoria. Then he was gone. I stood frozen in my living room. The space that had always been my sanctuary now felt contaminated. Not by his presence, but by the truth he'd spoken. Tomorrow, my case would collapse. Tomorrow, I discover Sarah's betrayal. Tomorrow, everything I believed about justice and order and hard work mattering would shatter. And Marco Santoro had known, had watched it happen, had orchestrated it. While I'd been obsessing over comma placement, I walked the scattered papers, knelt, started gathering them automatically, stopped, left them there, walked to my desk, instead, opened my laptop, pulled up the evidence logs with hands that wouldn't quite stop shaking, and there it was, Sarah Mitchell. 2:47 a.m., evidence room access, 4 minutes, unauthorized, hidden in a file I'd never thought to check because I trusted my team. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. See you tomorrow night. Wear something red. You look beautiful when you're angry. I stared at the message, at the casual intimacy of it, at the presumption that I'd come. Then I did something I'd never done in my entire career. I threw my phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. Glass and metal scattering across my pristine hardwood floor. Perfect order. Destroyed. Just like everything else. I looked at the broken phone. At the scattered evidence notes. At my reflection in the dark window. Hair still in its perfect French twist. Suit still immaculate. Posture still flawless. Everything perfect on the outside. Everything broken underneath. And somewhere in the city, Marco Santoro was probably pouring himself a drink, celebrating his victory, knowing I'd come to dinner tomorrow, knowing he'd already won. I didn't sleep, couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I was still at my laptop, cross-referencing every piece of evidence Sarah Mitchell had touched, every file she'd logged, every timestamp she'd recorded, looking for the lie I'd missed. By 5 a.m., I'd found 3 more irregularities, small things I'd overlooked because I trusted her, things that would destroy my case completely. At 7 a.m., I stood in my closet, staring at the rack of suits, all black or navy, all perfect, all armor against a world that demanded precision. I pulled out the red dress, the one I'd bought on impulse 2 years ago, and never worn. Too bold, too attention-seeking, too everything I wasn't supposed to be, in a courtroom. I left it on the bed, chose navy instead. Control. The call came at 8:07. Thomas Brennan, my boss, the U.S. attorney who'd mentored me for 6 years. My office. Now, 2 words. No explanation needed. I walked through the federal building's marble halls, with my head high, my evidence folder clutched against my chest like a shield. Every colleague I passed looked away. They already knew. Thomas's office door was open. Inside, 3 people waited. Thomas, his deputy, and Marco Santoro's lead defense attorney, a woman named Catherine Hayes, who wore power suits like weapons. Sit, Thomas said. I remained standing. The Santoro case, Catherine began, her voice professionally sympathetic. We filed a motion to dismiss based on evidentiary contamination. I assume you've been made aware. Mr. Santoro informed me last night. Thomas's head snapped up. He what? He was waiting in my apartment. When I got home. Explained the entire situation. Showed me the security logs. I kept my voice steady. I've spent the night reviewing every piece of evidence. Sarah Mitchell touched. The contamination is extensive. The case is unsalvageable. Silence. Catherine looked almost impressed. Thomas looked furious. He broke into your apartment? Technically, he was released on his own recognizance. And technically, he didn't break in. I met his gaze. But yes, he was there, waiting for me. And you didn't call the police? Report it? You just let him leave? I was gathering information. The lie came easily. Understanding the extent of the damage to our case. Thomas leaned back in his chair, studied me with eyes that had seen 3 decades of prosecutors crack under pressure. You're off the case, Victoria. Effective immediately. Sir! You're compromised. He got to you. Got into your head. His voice was almost gentle. Take a week. Clear your mind. Then we'll discuss reassignment. I don't need a week. That wasn't a request. Catherine gathered her papers. The dismissal hearing is at 2 p.m. I assume there will be no opposition? Thomas looked at me, waiting. I thought about 14 months of work. About perfection destroyed. About Marco Santoro walking free because someone I'd trusted had betrayed everything. No opposition, I said quietly. I didn't go to the hearing. Couldn't watch Marco walk out of that courtroom knowing I'd failed. Instead, I sat in my office, the one they'd let me keep for now, and stared at the evidence wall I'd built. Photographs, timelines, financial records, all worthless now. My phone buzzed at 2:47 p.m. Unknown number. But I knew who it was. The car will be at your building at 7:30 p.m. Reservations are at 8. Don't be late, MS. I should delete it. Block the number. Forget Marco Santoro existed. Instead, I texted back, where? The response was immediate. Somewhere we can talk without interruption. Trust me. Trust. From a man who just destroyed my career. I looked at the red dress still hanging in my office. I'd brought it this morning, unable to decide. Unable to commit. Then I typed, I'll be ready. At 7:15 p.m., I stood in front of my bathroom mirror. The red dress fit perfectly. Silk that clung to curves I usually hid under professional armor. Hair down for the first time in years. Dark waves instead of the severe French twist. Minimal makeup, except for lips that matched the dress. I looked like someone else. Someone dangerous. Someone who might be capable of playing Marco Santoro's game. My phone buzzed. Car is waiting. I grabbed my clutch phone, ID, lipstick, and the small canister of pepper spray I'd carried since law school, and walked out. The black Mercedes idled at the curb. The driver opened the rear door without speaking. Inside, the car was empty. Marco wasn't there. Just a single white envelope on the leather seat. I opened it. Victoria, I thought you might prefer to arrive separately. It's more discreet. The restaurant is Maria. Ask for the private room. I'm waiting. Maria. One of the most exclusive Italian restaurants in Manhattan. Impossible to get reservations. The kind of place where senators dined with foreign diplomats and billionaires brokered deals that changed markets. Of course Marco had a private room. The drive took 20 minutes through evening traffic. I spent it staring out the window, watching the city lights blur, wondering what the hell I was doing. Going to dinner with the man who'd destroyed my case. Wearing a red dress, because he told me to. Playing a game whose rules I didn't understand. The car stopped, in front of Maria's understated entrance. The driver opened my door. Mr. Santoro is expecting you, Miss Sinclair, he said. First words he'd spoken. I stepped onto the sidewalk. The restaurant's warm light spilled through windows that cost more than my annual salary. A hostess appeared immediately. Miss Sinclair? This way, please. She led me through the main dining room, where I recognized at least 3 federal judges and a Supreme Court justice, to a private hallway in the back. We stopped at a carved wooden door. Mr. Santoro requested you not be disturbed, the hostess said. The room is soundproof. There's a call button if you need anything. Soundproof. The word should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else. Anticipation. I opened the door. The private room was intimate, without being claustrophobic. Candlelight. Floor to ceiling. Windows, overlooking Central Park. A table, set for 2, with wine already breathing in a crystal decanter. And Marco. He stood when I entered, and for a moment neither of us spoke. He wore all black tonight. Shirt, slacks, no tie. The informalities somehow made him more dangerous. More real. His eyes traveled from my heels to my face, lingering on the red silk. You wore it, he said softly. You told me to, I suggested. There's a difference. He moved to pull out my chair. You chose to comply. That's interesting. I sat because standing felt like retreat. Maybe I just looked good in red. You do. He sat across from me, those blue eyes catching the candlelight. But that's not why you wore it. You wore it because I told you I'd been watching, that I knew things about you. And you wanted to prove you could surprise me. Damn him for being right. You said you'd explain, I said, deflecting, about the corruption, about how deep it goes. Business before pleasure? A slight smile. Very well. He poured wine for both of us. I didn't touch mine. Your office, the Southern District of New York, one of the most prestigious prosecutors' offices in the country, has 11 people on my payroll, ranging from paralegals to senior attorneys. Sarah Mitchell was just the most recent addition. 11. The number was obscene. 12 if you count your IT director. But he mostly just makes sure certain surveillance footage has convenient gaps. I felt sick. How long? I've been building this network for 15 years, since I was 28, and realized the best defense isn't good lawyers. It's having people inside the prosecutor's office who can sabotage cases before they're filed. And you're telling me this because you asked. He leaned back. And because you can't do anything with the information. No proof, no witnesses willing to testify. Just the word of a criminal against the reputation of decorated public servants. He was right. Again, so this is what? Gloating? Showing me how powerless I am? No. His voice dropped. This is me showing you the truth. The system you've dedicated your life to. It's broken, Victoria. Has been for decades. I didn't break it. I just learned to exploit the cracks that were already there. That doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it wrong. Either. Just makes it reality. He finally sipped his wine. You've spent your entire career believing that hard work and perfect preparation guarantee victory. That justice is about being smart enough and thorough enough. And persistent enough. It is. No. Justice is about power. About who can afford the best lawyers. About who has people inside the system. About who understands that rules are guidelines for some and weapons for others. He set down his glass. I'm not the villain in your story, Victoria. I'm just the only one honest enough to admit how the game is actually played. You destroyed my case. 14 months of work. I protected myself. Wouldn't you do the same? He leaned forward. If you knew someone was building a cage for you, even a legally perfect cage, wouldn't you use every tool available to escape? I wanted to say no. Wanted to believe I'd accept justice even if it meant my destruction. But sitting across from Marco, watching the candlelight play across his sharp features, I wasn't sure anymore. Why dinner? I asked. Instead, you've won. I'm off the case. You're free. Why bring me here? Because you're the first prosecutor in 15 years. Who actually scared me. The admission shocked us both. Your case was perfect, Victoria. Every detail correct. Every witness prepared. Every document filed on time. If Sarah hadn't sabotaged the evidence, I'd be looking at 25 years. His eyes held mine. Do you understand how rare that is? How many prosecutors I've faced who were lazy or arrogant or just going through the motion? So this is respect? Professional courtesy? This is self-preservation. His smile was almost sad. Because you're not going to stop. You're going to build another case. Better than before. More careful. And next time, I might not catch the vulnerability in time. Damn right I will. I know. That's why I'm offering you an alternative. I went very still. What alternative? Marco stood. Walked to the window. Looked out at the park. Spread below like a dark jewel. Work with me instead of against me. The words hung in the air. You're asking me to... What? Become one of your people? Join your network? No. He turned back to face me. I'm asking you to stop playing a rigged game, to use your intelligence and your perfectionism for something that actually matters. Putting criminals back on the street matters? I'm not talking about my organization. I'm talking about the system. He moved closer. You say your office has corruption. What if you helped me expose it? Not as a prosecutor, as someone who understands how the game is played. You want me to help you destroy my own office? I want you to help me destroy the corruption. There's a difference. He sat on the edge of the table, close enough to touch. Think about it, Victoria. You could do more good taking down dirty prosecutors than you ever did convicting low-level criminals while the real power players bought their way free. It was insane. Unethical. Career suicide. I'm terrifyingly logical. I need time to think, I said quietly. Take all the time you need. He reached out, slowly, giving me time to pull away. His fingers brushed my cheek, traced my jawline, tilted my chin up until I was forced to meet his gaze. But know this, he said softly. I didn't bring you here to recruit you. I brought you here because for the first time in 20 years, I met someone who sees the world the way I do, who understands that perfection is both strength and weakness, who can't stop fighting even when fighting is futile. You don't know me, don't I? His thumb brushed my lower lip. You came to dinner with a man who destroyed your case. You wore the dress I suggested. You're sitting here listening to treason instead of running to your boss. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're already compromised, Victoria. The only question is whether you admit it. Then he stepped back, released me, left me gasping like I'd been underwater. Dessert? He asked, voice casual again. The tiramisu here is exceptional. The car dropped me at my building at 11:23 p.m. Marco hadn't come with me, had said he had business to attend to and would be in touch soon. Like we were colleagues. Like I hadn't spent dinner considering treason. I rode the elevator to my floor in a daze, my mind replaying every word he'd said, every touch, every moment his eyes had held mine with an intensity that made my stomach flip. You're already compromised, was I? I unlocked my apartment door, stepped inside, and froze. Someone was sitting on my couch. Not Marco this time, a woman. 50s, silver hair, expensive suit, eyes that had seen too much. Miss Sinclair? She stood smoothly. My name is Elizabeth Carter. I work for the FBI, and we need to talk about Marco Santoro. My first instinct was to call building security. My second was to ask for credentials. I did neither, just closed the door, locked it, turned to face the stranger in my home. How did you get in here? The same way Santoro did. Your building security is embarrassingly weak. She gestured to the couch. Please, sit. This won't take long. I'm not sitting in my own apartment on someone else's command. Not twice in 2 days. I stayed by the door. You have 2 minutes. Talk. Elizabeth smiled. Marco said, you were difficult. I like that. You know him? I've been investigating him for 7 years. Task force leader. My entire career has been building a RICO case against his organization. She pulled out her phone, showed me her FBI credentials. Genuine. And I'm here because I saw you having dinner with him tonight. My blood went cold. You were watching? We're always watching Marco Santoro. Imagine my surprise when the prosecutor whose case just collapsed shows up at Maria wearing a red dress. Her eyes were sharp. So either you're incredibly stupid, or you're playing a very dangerous game. I was gathering information. Were you? She pocketed her phone. Or were you listening to him explain how your office is corrupted, how the system is broken, how you could do so much more working with him instead of against him? I said nothing, because she was exactly right. He makes it sound reasonable, Elizabeth continued. Logical. Like he's offering you truth instead of treason. Like working with him is actually serving justice. She moved closer. But here's what he didn't tell you. In the 15 years Marco Santoro has been running his organization, 47 people have died. Not just criminals. Prosecutors, witnesses, one FBI agent, people who got too close or knew too much or threatened his power. He told me he's not violent, that his business is financial. He told you what you needed to hear. Her voice was hard now. Marco Santoro is brilliant at reading people, at finding their vulnerabilities, at making them believe he's something other than what he is. She paused. He's a killer, Miss Sinclair. Charming, intelligent, attractive, and absolutely deadly to anyone who trusts him. I thought about Marco's fingers on my face, his voice soft against my ear, the way he'd looked at me like I was something precious. You're already compromised. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. I want you to do exactly what he asked. Work with him. Get close. Gather evidence. Elizabeth's eyes gleamed. But not for him. For me. For the FBI. Help me build a case that actually sticks. You want me to be an informant. I want you to be a hero, to take down a man who's corrupted our entire justice system. She pulled out a card, her direct number. Think about it. But don't think too long. Because every day Marco Santoro is free, more people die. She walked to the door, paused. Oh, and Miss Sinclair? He'll call you tomorrow. Probably around 10 a.m. He'll have thought of some reason you need to meet again. Some piece of information he forgot to share. Some document you need to see. She smiled. Say yes. Start building trust. And then call me. Then she was gone. I stood in my apartment, violated for the second time in 2 days, and realized I was caught between two impossibilities. Work with Marco and become a traitor. Work against him and become a spy. Either way, I was compromised. Either way, I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I walked to my bedroom, looked at the red dress puddled on the floor where I'd dropped it. You look beautiful when you're angry. Marco's voice in my head. I picked up the dress, hung it carefully in my closet. Then I pulled out my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I researched Marco Santoro. Not his crimes, not his organization. Him. And I found something the FBI had missed. A pattern. In every case Marco had walked away from, in every prosecution that had collapsed, there was one commonality. The prosecutor had been a woman. Young. Attractive. Ambitious. And every single one had disappeared from public life within 6 months of their case collapsing. Some had quit. Moved to private practice. Left the law entirely. One had vanished completely. No forwarding address. No social media. Just gone. I stared at the screen. At the pattern I couldn't unsee. Marco Santoro didn't just corrupt prosecutors. He destroyed them. And I just had dinner with him, wearing the dress he'd told me to wear. My phone buzzed. 10:47 p.m. A text. I enjoyed tonight. Sleep well, Victoria. Tomorrow brings new possibilities. MS. I should call Elizabeth Carter. Report everything. Start working as an informant before I got in any deeper. Instead, I texted back. When can we meet again? The response was immediate, eager. I like that. My office. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'll send a car. I put down my phone. Walked to my evidence wall. The one about Marco's case that was now worthless. And I started a new section. What Victoria needs to know. Because Elizabeth Carter was right about one thing. I was playing a very dangerous game. The only question was who I was playing it for. Myself, the FBI, or Marco Santoro, who'd already gotten further into my head than anyone should be allowed. The car arrived at 1:45 p.m. Different driver this time. Younger, more professional. He said nothing during the 20-minute drive to an address in Tribeca, a building that looked like any other luxury office complex. Glass and steel and mud. 15th floor, the driver said, as I stepped out. He's expecting you. The lobby was marble and modern art. Security nodded me through without checking ID. The elevator was mirror polished. I watched my reflection rise through floors, noting the navy suit I'd chosen. Professional armor. Not red this time. Control. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. Furniture that whispered money without shouting it. And Marco standing by those windows, phone to his ear. He turned when I entered, smiled. Ended his call. Victoria. Punctual as always. He gestured to a seating area. Leather sofa, modern chairs, coffee table with water and glasses, already prepared. Thank you for coming. You said you had information I needed. Direct. Also as always. He sat, waited for me to choose my seat. I took the chair across from him. Maximum distance. Power position. His smile suggested he noticed. I spent last night thinking about our conversation, Marco began. About what I asked you. And I realized I approached it wrong. How so? I made it sound like a binary choice. Work with me or keep playing a rigged game. But there's a third option I didn't present. He leaned forward. Work with me temporarily. Just long enough to expose the corruption in your office. Then walk away clean. There's no such thing as temporary treason. There is if nobody knows you're committing it. He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. This contains proof, real proof, about 3 of the prosecutors in your office who are on my payroll. Dates, payments, cases they sabotaged. Everything you'd need to take them down officially. I didn't touch the folder. Why would you give me this? Because they're liabilities. They've gotten sloppy, greedy, And because, he paused, because I'd rather have you investigating them than investigating me. There it was. The truth beneath the altruism. So you throw them to the wolves to protect yourself. I cut off the infected limb to save the body. It's practical. He stood, moved to the bar, poured himself whiskey despite the early hour. And it gives you what you want, a way to restore your reputation, to prove you're not compromised, to look like a hero instead of a failure. He was right. Again, taking down dirty prosecutors would rehabilitate my career, make me look vigilant instead of victimized. What do you get out of it? I asked. Besides removing liabilities? He sipped his drink. I get to watch you work, to see if you're as brilliant at investigation as you are at prosecution, to determine whether you're someone I can actually trust. You don't trust me? Not yet. He returned to his seat. Closer, this time. Close enough that I could smell his cologne. But I'd like to. Trust is rare in my world, Victoria. Loyalty costs money. But genuine partnership? That's priceless. Partnership. I let the word hang. You mean accomplice? I mean equal. Someone who understands the game, who plays it as well as I do, who could, if she chose, become something more than just another prosecutor. I have to work around. There was weight in that sentence. Implications. I wasn't ready to examine. Let me see the folder, I said instead. Marco handed it to me. Our fingers brushed. He didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. Inside were 3 names. Assistant U.S. Attorney, David Morrison. Senior Prosecutor, 15 years with the office. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Park. Rising star. Just made the narcotics division. Paralegal Thomas Ruiz. 12 years. Quiet. Efficient. And evidence. God. So much evidence. Wire transfers. Emails. Recorded phone calls. Probably illegal but damning nonetheless. Case files. Showing obvious sabotage. How long have you had this? I asked. I've been documenting everything since the beginning. Insurance policy. Marco watched me read. The question is whether you'll use it. I looked up. Using illegally obtained evidence makes me no better than you. No, it makes you practical, strategic. He leaned closer. The evidence might be illegal, but once you know where to look, you can find the legal proof. Subpoena their financial records. Interview witnesses. Build a proper case using this as a roadmap. He was right. This folder was a treasure map to legitimate prosecution. I need time to think. Of course. He stood, walked back to the windows. But while you're thinking, consider this. Yesterday, you lost a case because someone you trusted betrayed you. How many more times will that happen before you accept that the system is designed to fail? The system works if good people fight for it. The system works for people with power. He turned back to me. You can be one of them, Victoria. You can have real power instead of just the illusion of it. Or you can keep being a perfectionist who builds beautiful cases that crumble the moment someone pushes the right button. His words hit harder, because they echoed my own midnight thoughts. I'll look at the evidence, I said finally. Verify it, independently. If it's real, I'll consider how to proceed. That's all I ask. He moved to his desk, wrote something, handed me a card. My private number. Call any time, day or night. I'll answer. I pocketed the card without looking at it. Was there anything else? Yes. He stepped closer, into my personal space. Tonight, have dinner with me again. Not business. Just dinner. 2 people who understand each other. No agendas. There's always an agenda with you. Perhaps. His hand came up, brushed a strand of hair from my face. Or perhaps I just want to spend time with the most interesting woman I've met in 20 years. Someone who challenges me. Who doesn't bend just because I tell her to. His fingers lingered on my cheek, thumb tracing my jawline. I should step back. Maintain boundaries. Remember he was a criminal who'd destroyed my case. Instead, I leaned into his touch. Just slightly. Just enough that he noticed. 8 p.m., I whispered. But I choose the restaurant. His smile was victory and promise combined. I look forward to it. I left his office with the folder tucked in my bag, and his touch still burning on my skin. In the elevator, I pulled out my phone. 2 texts waited. Elizabeth Carter. Well, did you meet with him? Call me. And Robert Torres, the ex-security guard who'd warned me about Marco weeks ago. Saw you enter Santoro's building. Be careful, he's more dangerous when he's being charming. I deleted both. Then I called a number I hadn't used since law school. Maria? It's Victoria Sinclair. Remember when you said you owed me for that employment law case? I need a favor. Background checks on 3 people. Deep ones. Unofficial. Can you do it? My old roommate didn't hesitate. Send me the names. I forwarded Morrison, Park, and Ruiz. Because Marco was right about one thing. I needed to verify his evidence. And if it was real, if my office really was that corrupted, then maybe he was right about everything else too, including the fact that I was already compromised. The question was whether I'd admit it. I chose a restaurant in Gramercy. Small, intimate, not the kind of place Marco would usually frequent. Too bohemian, too artsy, too much about the food, and not enough about being seen. He arrived at 8:03 p.m., wearing dark jeans and a black sweater, casual. Almost normal. Almost. Interesting choice, he said, sliding into the booth, across from me. I expected somewhere with security cameras, witnesses, protection. I expected you'd have your people watching anyway. Fair. He glanced at the menu. What's good here? Everything. It's my favorite place in the city. Has been since law school. I sipped my wine. I'd arrived early. Needed liquid courage. Figured if we're doing this just dinner thing, we should be somewhere I actually like, not somewhere designed to impress. Something shifted in his expression. You're telling me something. About yourself. Giving me information I could use. Maybe I'm testing whether you'll use it. Smart. He ordered without looking at the menu. Whatever I recommended, trust or strategy, I couldn't tell. We talked. About nothing important at first. Food, wine, the restaurant's history, a converted speakeasy from the 1920s, original brick exposed. You like history? Marco observed. Old things, things with story. I like things that last, that survive despite time trying to erode them. Like you. I looked up. What? You've survived. Law school debts. A brutal profession. A system designed to burn people out. And you're still here, still fighting. His eyes held mine. That takes a specific kind of strength. Or stubbornness. There's a difference? I laughed. Actually laughed. When was the last time I'd done that? Tell me something real, Marco said suddenly. Not about work. Not about cases. Something true about Victoria Sinclair. I should have deflected, kept boundaries. Instead, I hate being alone. My apartment is silent and perfect, and I've decorated it exactly how I like it. And every night, I walk in and feel like I'm suffocating. The admission surprised us both. Why? Because perfection is lonely. Because order is cold. Because I've spent so long building this controlled life that I forgot to actually live in it. I drained my wine. Your turn. Something real. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm tired, he said finally. Of the game, of always being 3 moves ahead. Of never being able to trust anyone because everyone wants something from me. He leaned back. I have more money than I'll ever spend. More power than I know what to do with. And I'm completely fucking exhausted. The profanity was unexpected, raw, real. Why not stop then? Walk away? And do what? Become a civilian? You don't retire from my world, Victoria. You die or you get arrested or you become irrelevant. His smile was bitter. Those are the only exits. There's always a choice. Is there? You chose to be a prosecutor. To dedicate your life to perfect cases and impossible standards. Can you just stop? Can you wake up tomorrow and decide to be someone else? He was right. Again. Always right. No, I admitted. I can't. Neither can I. We're the same, you and I. Trapped in lives we've built so carefully we can't escape them. The waiter cleared our plates, brought dessert. We hadn't ordered. Chocolate. Something plated like art. Marco's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression darkened. Problem? I asked. Always. He typed a quick response. One of my associates made a poor decision. I need to handle it. Now. Soon. But he made no move to leave. I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to involve business. Everything with you involves business. Not this. He reached across the table, took my hand. This is something else entirely. His touch was warm, strong, undeniable. I should pull away. I didn't. Victoria. My name like a prayer. I need you to understand something. I didn't bring you into my life to use you. I brought you in because I'm fascinated by you, by your mind, your dedication, the way you see the world as something that should make sense. Should? Does it? Make sense? After what you've seen? His thumb traced circles on my palm. Does justice still feel real to you? Does order still feel possible? I don't know anymore. Good. He squeezed my hand. Doubt is the beginning of wisdom. His phone buzzed again. Insistent. This time, I have to go, he said, but I want to see you again. Tomorrow. My place. Not my office. My actual home. Somewhere private. Marco. Just to talk. I promise. No business. No agendas. Just us. Getting to know each other without the weight of everything else. It was a terrible idea. Dangerous. Compromising. Career-ending. What time? I heard myself ask. 7. I'll cook. You cook? I do a lot of things that might surprise you. He stood. Pulled out cash for the bill. Far more than necessary. Keep the change. And Victoria, wear something comfortable. This isn't about impressing anyone. It's about being real. Then he was gone. I sat alone, with half-eaten dessert and the ghost of his touch on my hand. My phone buzzed. Elizabeth Carter. He left early. What happened? Call me. I typed back. Meeting him tomorrow. At his home. We'll report after. Her response. Be careful. We've never gotten someone inside his actual residence. This is huge. Document everything. I deleted the conversation. Because I wasn't going to Marco's home as an FBI informant. I was going because I wanted to. Because somewhere between his destroyed case and his dangerous truths, I'd stopped seeing him as the enemy and started seeing him as something far more dangerous. A mirror, showing me who I might become. The address Marco sent wasn't in Manhattan. Brooklyn. Red Hook. An industrial building converted to luxury lofts. The kind that cost millions but looked deliberately unfinished. Exposed brick. Steel beams. Windows that stretched 2 stories. No doorman, this time. Just a code for the private elevator. I stood in the lobby for 3 full minutes before entering it. Last chance to walk away. I punched in the code. The elevator rose silently, opened directly into his loft, and stopped my breath. It was nothing like his office. Nothing like I'd imagined. One massive open space, Kit Carter flowing into living area, flowing into what looked like a library. Books everywhere. Real books. Worn spines, annotated margins. Art that was clearly personal, not decorator chosen. A piano in the corner. Sheet music scattered across it. And Marco. In jeans and a worn Columbia t-shirt. Barefoot. Cooking. You're staring, he said without turning around. You have a piano. I do. He glanced back, smiled at my shock. My mother taught me. Insisted music was as important as mathematics. Said they both taught you to see patterns. I moved closer. The Kit Carter smelled like garlic and wine, and something herbal I couldn't identify. What are you making? Osso buco. My grandmother's recipe. Takes 4 hours. He stirred something in a large pot. I started this afternoon. Figured if I was inviting you into my actual life, I should do it properly. This is your actual life? I gestured to the space. Not the office, not the cars and the restaurants. That's my work. This is me. He poured 2 glasses of red wine, handed me one. Welcome to who I actually am, Victoria. Without the armor. I took the wine. Walked slowly through the space, examining it like a crime scene, looking for clues about the man behind the criminal. Photos on a shelf. Marco younger, with an older couple. His parents, I assumed. Their eyes had his intensity. A girl, maybe 20, laughing at the camera. Same dark hair. Your sister? Was. His voice went flat. Sophia. She died 8 years ago. Breast cancer. She was 27. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't know. He returned to cooking. She's why I do this, actually. The organization. The money. All of it. I don't understand. She got sick. Needed experimental treatment. Insurance wouldn't cover it. We didn't have the money. My father was a construction worker. My mother cleaned houses. So I did what I had to do. He tasted the sauce. Added salt. By the time I had enough money, it was too late. She died in a charity ward, while I was closing my first 7-figure deal. The story hit me like cold water. Marco, I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm explaining. He turned to face me. Everything I built was supposed to save her, and by the time I had the power to save anyone, she was gone. So now I just keep building, because stopping means admitting it was all for nothing. I set down my wine, moved to him, didn't think, just acted, reached up and touched his face. It wasn't for nothing. You've survived. That matters. His hand covered mine, held it against his cheek. Does it? Survive by becoming the thing everyone fears? By corrupting systems and destroying careers and, he stopped, by ruining perfect prosecutors who were just doing their jobs? I'm not ruined. Not yet. His eyes held mine. But I'm working on it. The admission was raw, honest, dangerous. Why? I whispered. Why me? You said it yourself. You faced dozens of prosecutors. Why am I different? Because you see me. His free hand came to my waist, pulled me closer. Everyone else sees the criminal. The threat, the man to be feared or used or destroyed. But you? You look at me and see someone who's tired. Someone who's trapped. Someone who's desperate for something real as you are. This isn't real. This is, what? Forbidden? Dangerous? Wrong? He leaned down, breath warm against my lips. Or is it the first honest thing either of us has felt in years? I should push him away. Should remember the FBI, watching. Should think about my career, my ethics, everything I'd built. Instead, I kissed him. Or he kissed me. I couldn't tell who moved first. Didn't matter. His lips were soft and demanding. His hands tightened on my waist, pulling me flush against him. I gripped his shoulders, felt muscle beneath soft cotton, felt his heart hammering as fast as mine. The kiss deepened, desperate. Like we were drowning, and this was air. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marco pressed his forehead to mine. This complicates everything, he said. I know. The FBI is watching. Your office suspects. Every minute you spend with me destroys your reputation more completely. I know. And you're still here. Yes. He pulled back. Looked at me with such intensity I felt exposed, seen through. Why? Because I stopped. Started again. Because I'm tired, too. Of being perfect. Of following rules that don't work. Of building cases that collapse because the system is broken. I touched his face again. And because when I'm with you, I feel awake for the first time in 10 years. Victoria, I'm not done. I stepped back. Needed distance to say this. I know what you are, what you do, the people you've hurt. And I'm not naive enough to think you're secretly good, or that love can redeem you, or any of that romantic nonsense. Then what? But I also know that you're right. About the system. About corruption. About me being trapped in a life I've built too carefully to escape. I took a shaky breath. So here's what I'm offering. Information for information. Truth for truth. We help each other. I take down the dirty prosecutors in my office. You give me everything I need to do it. And when it's done, he prompted, we see if this, I gestured between us, is real or just adrenaline and danger and two broken people looking for something that isn't there. Marco was silent for a long moment. Then, that's the most practical proposition anyone's ever made me. I'm a practical person. No, you're not. You're terrified and trying to control something inherently uncontrollable. He moved to me again, slower this time. But I accept partners in taking down corruption, in discovering whether this is real. His lips brushed mine again, gentle this time, seeing where this impossibly dangerous thing leads. The kiss was different now, not desperate, certain, like we'd made a decision we couldn't unmake. When his phone rang, insistent, angry, we both ignored it. When the timer on the stove went off, he turned it off without moving away from me. And when he finally led me to the couch, poured more wine, served the osso buco he'd spent hours making, we ate in comfortable silence, Like we'd been doing this for years. Like this was normal. Like we weren't a prosecutor and a criminal falling into something that could destroy us both. Tell me about your first case, Marco said finally. The one that made you want to be perfect. So I did. And he told me about his first deal. The one that had funded Sophia's treatment. Too late. We traded stories like other couples traded kisses. Wounds for wounds, scars for scars. And somewhere around midnight, with empty plates and empty wine bottles, and his arm around my shoulders, I realized I'd made my choice. Not for the FBI, not for my career, for this. Whatever this was, however it ended. I woke in Marco's bed, alone. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. The loft was silent, except for city sounds filtering up from the street below. My clothes folded neatly on a chair. My phone charging on the nightstand. A note in Marco's elegant handwriting. Had to handle business. Coffee's in the kit. Carter. Stay as long as you like. Last night was real. Last day was real. Last night. We talked until 3 a.m. Fallen asleep on the couch. He carried me to his bed. I had vague memories of being lifted, of his arms secure around me, and then nothing. He'd let me sleep. Hadn't pushed for more than that one perfect kiss. Last night was real. I showered in his massive bathroom, put on yesterday's clothes, found coffee and pastries he must have ordered before leaving, and my phone full of messages. Elizabeth Carter. Where are you? You were supposed to check in. Call me now. Thomas Brennan. My office. 9 a.m. Not optional. Maria, my law school friend. Background checks are done. Victoria, you need to see this. Call me. And one from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Sinclair. We need to talk about Marco Santoro. Your life may depend on it. Agent Sarah Price, FBI. My stomach dropped. I called Maria first. Oh my God. Finally. She sounded stressed. Victoria, the people you asked me to research? Morrison, Park, Ruiz. What about them? Morrison is clean. Completely. 25 years of spotless service. Park and Ruiz too. No suspicious finances. No secret meetings. Nothing that suggests corruption. My blood went cold. That's impossible. I have evidence. Whatever evidence you have is fabricated. I went deep. Victoria. Bank records. Phone logs. Everything. These people aren't on anyone's payroll. But there's more. I found something else while I was digging. Another prosecutor. Emily Wright. She worked for the Southern District 5 years ago. Built a case against Marco Santoro. It collapsed due to evidence contamination. Sound familiar? What happened to her? She disappeared. Left the law. Moved to California. Changed her name. Maria's voice dropped. I found her. Called her. She told me Marco Santoro seduced her. Made her think the system was corrupt. Made her fall in love with him. Then destroyed her when she was no longer useful. No. She's lying. She has to be. There were 2 others before her. Same pattern. Female prosecutors. Cases collapse. He gets close to them. They vanish from public life within 6 months. Maria paused. Victoria, he's doing it again. To you. Can't you see that? I hung up. Stood in Marco's kit Carter with its expensive appliances and personal touches. The photos of his sister. The piano. The worn books. All of it, designed to make you trust him. My phone rang. Elizabeth Carter. I answered. Where the hell have you been? She demanded. You were supposed to check in after the restaurant. Then you disappeared for 16 hours. I was with Marco. At his home. Silence. Then, Jesus Christ, Victoria. Do you have any idea how dangerous? Did he hurt you? Touch you? We can still use this. He didn't hurt me. We just talked. Talked. Her voice was flat. In his private residence. For 16 hours. And you expect me to believe nothing happened? Nothing happened that matters. The lie tasted bitter. He gave me evidence about corruption in my office. Prosecutors on his payroll. Let me guess. Morrison, Park, and Ruiz? I froze. How did you? Because that's his pattern. He gives you fake evidence. Makes you think your office is compromised. Isolates you from your colleagues. Makes you dependent on him for truth. And by the time you realize it's all fabricated, you're already in too deep. No, he wouldn't. He's done it before, Victoria. 3 times. Same playbook. Same lies. Same outcome. Elizabeth's voice softened. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to believe him. They all did. But Marco Santoro is a predator. And you're his latest target. I sank onto the couch, where we'd fallen asleep. Where he'd held me. Like I mattered. Where he told me about Sophia. Sophia. The sister, I said suddenly. He told me his sister died. Sophia. That's why he started all this. Marco Santoro doesn't have a sister. He's an only child. His parents are alive and well in Florida. They haven't spoken to him in 15 years. The room spun. But the photos. Probably an actress. Or someone's actual sister. Who knows? The point is, everything he told you was designed to make you sympathize, to make you trust him, to make you. She stopped. Victoria, did you sleep with him? No, but you wanted to. I said nothing. Come in, now, we'll debrief. Figure out how to use this. You can still help us. I have to go. Victoria, don't do anything stupid. Don't confront him. Don't. I hung up, sat in silence, in the home of a man who'd lied about everything, who'd fabricated evidence to isolate me, who'd told me his sister was dead to gain sympathy, who'd made me believe I was special when I was just another mark. Last night was real. Was it? Or was that a lie too? My phone buzzed. Text from Marco. Hope you slept well. Breakfast was waiting. When I left. Did you find it? Thinking about last night. About you. Man. I stared at the message. At the casual intimacy of it. At the performance. Another buzz. Also, I have more evidence for you. About the corruption. Meet me at the office at 2. I promise you'll want to see this. Meb. More fake evidence. More lies to pull me deeper. I typed back. I'll be there. Because I was going to confront him. Going to demand the truth. Going to see his face when I told him I knew. And then I was going to decide whether Elizabeth Carter and Maria and the pattern of vanished prosecutors was real, or whether Marco's touch on my face, his whispered confessions, his sister's photo was real. I had 4 hours to figure out which version of reality I believed, and what I was willing to sacrifice for it. I arrived at Marco's office at 1:45, 15 minutes early. Deliberate. The receptionist recognized me, waved me through without checking ID. How many other prosecutors has she seen come through here? The elevator ride felt longer this time. My reflection in the mirrors looked haunted. Dark circles under my eyes, despite the sleep. Mouth tight with betrayal. Or doubt. I still wasn't sure which. The elevator opened. Marco's assistant, a young man I hadn't seen before, looked up. Miss Sinclair. He's expecting you. Go right in. I walked past. Opened the door without knocking. Marco stood at his desk, phone in hand, mid-conversation. He looked up, smiled. That smile that had seemed so genuine last night. I'll call you back, he said into the phone. Hung up, moved toward me. Victoria, you're early. Was any of it true? He stopped. What? Sophia, your sister. The story about her dying, about experimental treatment, and charity wards, and the reason you built all this. I stepped closer. Was any of it true? His expression didn't change. But something flickered in his eyes. Who told you? The FBI. My friend, who ran background checks. Multiple sources. My voice was steady, controlled. You don't have a sister. Your parents are alive. Everything you told me was a lie. Not everything. Then what was true? The kiss? The coffee waiting this morning? The note that said last night was real? I was shaking now. With rage or hurt, I couldn't tell. Or was that just part of the seduction? Part of the pattern you've used on 3 other prosecutors before me? Marco moved to his desk. Poured whiskey despite the early hour. Drank it in one swallow. Sit down, Victoria. No, I'm done following your commands. Done playing whatever game this is. I pulled the folder he'd given me from my bag. Threw it on his desk. This evidence about Morrison and Park and Ruiz. It's fake. They're not corrupt. You fabricated it to isolate me from my colleagues, to make me think the only person I could trust was you. That's not. And the pattern. Female prosecutors, cases that collapse. Then you seduce them. Make them think they're special. Make them fall for you. And when they're no longer useful, they disappear from public life. I was crying now. Angry tears. I'm just the latest one, aren't I? Just another mark in your long game. Marco set down his glass, moved around the desk, toward me. I backed away. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't. Victoria. His voice was quiet. Dangerous. If you're going to accuse me, at least get the facts right. What facts? That you're a liar? A manipulator? That you've been playing me from the beginning? But I do have a sister. Her name isn't Sophia, it's Elena, and she's not dead. She's in witness protection, because she testified against me 5 years ago. I froze. What? My sister. The one I told you about. She's alive, living under a new name, somewhere in the Midwest. Because she decided family loyalty mattered less than doing the right thing. His face was stone. So when I told you about Sophia dying, I was telling you the truth, just with a different ending. The sister I knew, the one I loved, the one I built all this for, she's dead to me. Because she chose justice over family. The words hit like bullets. You're lying. Again. Just trying. Call the FBI. Ask them about Elena Santoro. Ask them about the case 5 years ago that almost brought down my organization. Ask them why it collapsed. He moved closer. I didn't back away this time. It collapsed because I let it. Because I couldn't destroy my sister. Even after she betrayed me. I don't believe you. Then don't. He was inches away now. But believe this. Everything I told you last night was true. The exhaustion. The trap. The feeling that I've built something I can't escape. The way you make me feel awake for the first time in years. His hand came to my face. I should pull away. That was real, Victoria. All of it. And the evidence? Morrison and Park and Ruiz? Is real. I didn't fabricate it. I enhanced it. Made it easier to see. But the corruption is there. Your friend just didn't dig deep enough. She said their finances were clean. Of course they are. They're not stupid enough to use their own accounts. He pulled out his phone. Showed me offshore accounts. Shell companies. Transactions traced through 3 layers of protection. This takes expertise to find. Your friend is good, but she's not that good. I stared at the screen. At evidence that looked legitimate. At proof that could be real or could be another beautiful lie. I don't know what to believe anymore. Then believe this. He dropped his phone. Took my face in both hands. I have lied to you. About my sister's name. About small details designed to protect myself. But the important things, the things that matter, those were true. How do I know which is which? You don't. That's the whole point. His forehead touched mine. Trust is a leap, Victoria. You either believe me or you don't. You either accept that I'm exactly what I seem, a criminal who's tired and trapped and falling for a prosecutor who should be his enemy. Or you decide I'm a monster wearing a human face. What if you're both? Then you have to decide which one matters more. We stood, like that, breathing the same air. His hands warm on my face, my hands gripping his wrist, neither pulling away, neither closing the distance. The FBI wants me to testify against you, I said finally. To wear a wire, to help them build a case. I know. You know? Victoria. I've known since the first time Elizabeth Carter contacted you. I've known about every conversation, every text, every plan. He smiled, sad and knowing. I let it happen, because I wanted to see what you'd choose. This is insane. Yes. He kissed my forehead. Gentle. But so is everything else about us. I should walk out. Report everything. Do my job. Yes. I should let the FBI arrest you. Build their case. Watch you go to prison for 25 years. Yes. But I don't want to. The admission broke something inside me. God help me, Marco, I don't want. I know. His lips brushed mine. That's what makes you dangerous. Not your perfection. Not your brilliance. Your capacity for choosing wrong when it feels right. I kissed him then. Hard. Desperate. Like I was drowning and he was air. Like I'd already decided. Like there was no going back. And maybe there wasn't. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of a federal grand jury. 23 people waiting to hear my testimony about Marco Santoro. About corruption in the Southern District. About everything I'd learned in 2 months of falling into his orbit. Elizabeth Carter sat in the corner, confident, certain this was the moment they'd finally take him down. Thomas Brennan was there too. My former boss, watching to see if I'd redeem myself or destroy what was left of my career. The prosecutor leading the grand jury looked at me expectantly. Miss Sinclair, please state your name for the record. Victoria Elizabeth Sinclair. And you were the lead prosecutor on United States v. Marco Santoro? I was. The case that was dismissed due to evidence contamination. Yes. And you've since been cooperating with the FBI's investigation into Mr. Santoro's organization. I have. Elizabeth leaned forward. This was it. Miss Sinclair. Based on your investigation, your interactions with Mr. Santoro, and the evidence you've gathered, do you believe there is sufficient cause to indict him on RICO charges? I looked at the grand jury, at their faces, at the system I dedicated my life to serving. Then I said the words that would change everything. No, I don't believe there's sufficient cause. Chaos. Elizabeth stood. What? The prosecutor. Miss Sinclair, perhaps you misunderstood the question. I understood perfectly. I pulled out a folder. The real one. The one I'd spent 2 weeks kibling. I believe the evidence the FBI has presented is contaminated, fabricated, and I believe the real corruption exists not in Marco Santoro's organization, but in the FBI's task force investigating him. I opened the folder. 7 years ago, Special Agent Elizabeth Carter began investigating Marco Santoro. In that time, she's built 3 cases. All collapsed, all due to evidence problems. But what if the evidence problems weren't accidents? What if they were deliberate? What if someone was sabotaging these cases from the inside? Elizabeth's face went white. What are you doing? My job. I pulled out documents, bank records, wire transfers. Elizabeth Carter has been receiving payments from offshore accounts traced to the Petrov organization, Marco Santoro's primary rival. She's been building cases designed to fail, cases that collapse spectacularly, because every time Santoro beats a federal prosecution, he looks stronger, more untouchable, which makes him a bigger target for the Petrovs. That's insane, Elizabeth said. But her voice shook. Is it? Then explain these payments. Explain why every wire you've asked informants to wear mysteriously malfunctions. Explain why evidence in FBI custody keeps getting contaminated. I looked at the grand jury. Explain why you pushed so hard for me to get close to Marco Santoro, not to build a case, but to become another prosecutor whose career you could destroy, another example of Santoro's supposed corruption. Thomas stood. Victoria, these are serious allegations. I know, which is why I spent 2 weeks verifying them. With forensic accountants, with FBI internal affairs, with independent investigators. I pulled out more documents. Director Williams is waiting outside to take Agent Carter into custody. Elizabeth moved toward the door. 2 federal marshals blocked it. You can't do this, she said. You have no idea what you've done. I've exposed corruption, just like you taught me to. I met her gaze. You were right about one thing. Marco Santoro is dangerous, but so is a system that allows agents to destroy careers to serve their own agendas. They took Elizabeth away. The grand jury was dismissed, and I walked out of the federal building into afternoon sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in months. Marco was waiting at my apartment when I got home, sitting in my living room chair. Like that first night, full circle. You didn't have to do that, he said quietly. Expose Carter, destroy her career. That makes you a target now, for the Petrovs, for anyone who thinks you're protecting me. I didn't do it for you. I set down my bag. I did it because she was guilty, because the corruption was real, because I took an oath to serve justice. And that means justice for everyone, even criminals I've fallen in love with. The words hung in the air. The first time either of us had said it, Marco stood, crossed to me. Slowly. Say it again. Which part? The part where you admit you've fallen for a criminal. I've fallen in love with you. Easier the second time. Even though you're a liar and a criminal, and probably still manipulating me. Even though this will destroy my career and make me a pariah, and guarantee I can never prosecute another case. Even though he kissed me, deep, certain, like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. When we broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine. I need to tell you something. The truth this time. All of it. Okay. My sister's name is Elena. She's in witness protection. Everything else I told you about her was true. She got sick, I built the organization to save her. She turned on me anyway. He took a shaky breath. And for 5 years, I've been feeding the FBI information through Elena, helping them take down worse criminals than me. Cleaning up my organization, trying to find a way out. I pulled back. What? I'm tired, Victoria. Like I told you. And I've been looking for an exit for years. Elena was supposed to be it. She testified. I helped the FBI from the inside, and eventually I'd have enough leverage to disappear. He touched my face. But then you happened, and I realized I didn't want to disappear. I wanted to stay. For you. Marco, the evidence about Morrison and Park and Ruiz, Rail, they are corrupt. But I wasn't giving it to you to isolate you. I was giving it to you because I want them gone. Want the system cleaned up. Want to help you fix what's broken. By breaking every rule. By working outside a system that's designed to fail. He smiled. Together. If you'll have me, a criminal trying to reform and a prosecutor who's willing to bend rules for the right reasons, I should say no. Should walk away. Should choose my career over this impossible, dangerous, completely insane man. Instead, what did you have in mind? His smile was victory and promise. And future. Partnership. Real partnership. You investigate corruption officially. I feed you information off the books. We take down the people who make me look like a saint. He pulled me closer. And we see if a perfectionist prosecutor and a tired criminal can build something real together. That's the worst plan I've ever heard. I know. It'll probably end with both of us in prison. Probably. And we'll have to lie. And break rules. And compromise everything we believe in. Yes. He kissed me again. Soft this time. But we'll do it together. Two broken people, building something new from the wreckage of what we were. I looked into his eyes. At the truth. Finally visible there. At the man behind the criminal. At my future reflected. In ice blue. Okay. I whispered. Partners. Partners, he agreed. And as he kissed me in my pristine apartment, with its perfect surfaces and controlled spaces, I realized something. Perfection had never been the goal. Survival had. Connection had. Finding someone who saw through the armor to the person underneath. Marco Santoro had destroyed my perfect case. But in doing so, he'd given me something better. A chance to build something real, however imperfect, however dangerous, however completely, beautifully wrong. Months later, the headline in the New York Times read, Corruption Scandal Rocks Southern District. 7 prosecutors indicted. My byline wasn't on the story, but my work was in every detail. I sat in Marco's loft, our loft now, reading the article over morning coffee. He emerged from the bedroom, still rumpled from sleep, kissed my temple. You did good. We did good. Semantics. He poured his own coffee. What's next? I pulled out a folder. Federal judge in New Jersey. Taking bribes. I have 3 sources and a paper trail. Ambitious. Always. I smiled. You in? Always. And as we spread documents across the table, planning our next case, our next target, our next impossible mission, I realized something. I'd spent my whole career seeking perfection, but perfection was lonely, cold, brittle. This messy and complicated and ethically questionable. This was real, and real was worth every rule I'd broken to find it.